Anyway.
Okay, I wish I could help you. Okay, here we are.
Yeah.
We're
Hi.
live.
Great. Okay. Hi. Well, I'm Inoya Araceli at the Open Center, and I'm hosting today's program on Open Center Facebook Live. Now, you won't be able to see me because my camera went down on my laptop. I think it's due to the storms. So let's continue on, because the star of the show, of course, is going to be Robin Rose Bennett today. I want to first introduce her. Robin Rose Bennett is an herbalist, writer, and an educator. And in the 1980s, she founded Wise Woman Healing Ways and began to teach what nature taught her to heal others. She uses sound, sound healing, meaning she uses singing, drumming. She performs, she does dream work. She does work with energy of the moon, elementals, guided meditations, and rituals. She is the author of 2 meditation CDs, and her books are Healing Magic, a Green Witch Guidebook to Conscious Living, and most recently, The Gift of Healing Herbs. So Robin.
Yes, and I'll hold them up. I'll just take a second. There we go.
There we go. Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Those are my babies.
Those are your babies. So I wanted to just say that there are different practices of herbalism, and they seem to be a very subtle and profound, I think, type of work. And plants, my understanding is just in reference to Wise Women Way. If you could explain that a little bit more, because the sensitivity that I feel you need to work with nature. I wanted to know more about how plants transmit intuitively to you as a person. Are you able to hear what they do or feel? I just want to understand that subtlety.
Okay, I wish I could take you right outside, but I'll take you outside via Zoom.
Okay.
I actually did bring some plants with me that maybe we'll get to as we talk. Okay. Here's the thing, Araceli, and is that the plants have never stopped communicating with human beings. The plants are always communicating subtly, overtly, and it is only our species that has forgotten how to listen. And gosh, you can take that across the board, right, in so many ways that we all know this, right? It's we're distracted, we're rushing, we're not doing what's required in order to hear beings who don't speak in verbal language. So the first thing is that we need to stop to listen. Or I guess the very first thing is that we start with an intention to stop and listen. So in the Wise Woman tradition, which is an ancient, it's a pre-written history tradition, because in the simplest way of saying it, it goes back to that name, goes back to thinking about how every village had their village wise woman. The woman who knew the plants, the woman who would usually or often, help bring the babies, midwife the babies, or counsel couples in trouble, or somebody who's grieving, or so forth. So the Wise Woman tradition, though, is accessible to everyone and anyone. And the one other thing I want to say in response to what you opened with is that we need to remember, because our lives really depend upon it, that we're not separate from nature. We are nature. So we need to kind of remember who we really are. And life becomes much more magical and satisfying and rich and fun and all those good things.
Well, it's like you become the translator of nature. People should be able to do that because animals still do. They're guided by nature. And we have forgotten. And of course, we're always having the reports when there are these huge hurricanes and animals know where to go and people don't. So
blows my mind. I mean, in the best of all possible ways. I always think about that when the tsunami hit in Indonesia and parts of Africa, and now we've had so many disasters, it's hard to remember which one was which, right? But it was some years ago, but not a really, really long time ago. And every animal went to high ground hours before the tsunami hit, hours before.
That's right.
So, wow, like that's incredible. And when I've met traditional midwives, traditional meaning in time honored traditions, not conventional. People use the word traditional when they mean conventional. So when I've met traditional midwives in tropical places, for example, in the islands, they can do with their fingertips what in Western conventional medicine is done with a machine, like a sonogram or a, right? They can feel what's happening inside that woman.
And they're more accurate than the machines.
Often, yes, often they are. We are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We know how to interpret our own.
Mm.
Now, just in general, the power of herbs and plants, how powerful are they? I mean, some of us have that experience. Some of us don't know.
Mm-hmm.
On many levels. One of the things that I wanted to ask really is how multi-dimensional are plants and herbs, to the level where you're looking at, I don't know, do they have chakras? They're medicinal, they're spiritual, so more of that I'd like to know.
Yeah, well, I feel like that's something that I've probably been exploring for many lifetimes and will continue to explore through this one and maybe some to come, right? That's a wonderful kind of just an opening question that you ask there. So they are as multidimensional as we are,
Mm-hmm.
right? And all of us have a surface that we appear, right? So if I'm me, you see something, right? But of course, there's this depth, right, within and below, or well, they can't even see. You're so magical. You're the invisible woman. You're multidimensional right now, right? But going back to your question, yes, I mean, and you know, if we want to look at the science of it, which always eventually catches up with traditional wisdom, is how I see it. Is science is always catching up with what people who are like indigenous wisdom, what we've always known. So there was something so science now is in fact showing that plants have nervous systems, right? They're not the same as ours, but they absolutely respond to us and to everything else. So, you know, and then the other question that arises for me in response to your question is, when you say how powerful are the plants, I suppose it means, you know, it requires me to ask, what do you mean by power?
Well, I mean, power in the sense that they are the ultimate healer, and I think that it's the way that they work with people. It may take a long time, but it takes a lot of dedication and subtlety. And that's, I think, can be quite powerful.
I see. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and today's conversation is like the drugs are more, but they're very toxic. You can only work, I think, in certain cases really well with drugs, and they help you a great deal to pass. But I find that the plant world, I guess it's the profoundness of how they're able to interact with our bodies if we know what we're doing.
Yeah, and even if we don't know what we're doing, we're always in interrelationship with the plants. For example, and when you say the plants are the ultimate healer, I don't think, see, everything in planet Earth is about relationship, is being in relationship. So when we're working with plants for our healing or our spiritual awakening, right? Because the class that's coming up at the Open Center is, well, not at the Open Center, but through the Open Center, you know, is on ceremony and ritual with the help of the plants. However, we're working with the plants, and this is true in my experience with physical healing with them as well, is that we're working with them. They're working with our body system. So for example, let's say I'm a person who's closed-minded and I don't believe that the plants are going to help me with anything because of how I was brought up and what the stories I've brought with me and so forth. If and maybe my partner, right, says, no, but do it for me. I want you to take this tea for your, you know, whatever, eczema, your headache, your distress, your stress. Let's talk about stress levels, since that's a pretty common problem right now.
Right.
I would say actually a pretty common normal reaction right now. So that plant is going to interact with my body's innate systems that are already geared towards healing. So even if my mind isn't on board, I'm still in relationship with that plant. And so I see people, oftentimes when people come to me for help, like at the herbal clinic or something, they're people who are the most closed in a sense,
Right.
can have some of the most dramatic healings because they weren't expecting it, right? And it's just the range that they get from here to here can be vast, which is not to take away anything but what you were saying about the profundity of plant medicine, because when we meet it with intention,
Right.
then the healing that can happen is multidimensional, is body, mind, heart, soul, right? It can be so deep, it can be so much, and truly, truly life altering in the best possible ways. When I was studying, herbalists never stop studying. When I was first studying about, I don't know, maybe it's 35 years ago now or so, maybe longer, I'm not sure. I was looking for answers to health problems, although some deeper part of me knew, right? Because I actually quit my job and left New York and went up to apprentice with a wise woman and was in a completely, totally foreign territory, right? But as far as I knew, I was seeking physical answers. I had no idea on any conscious level the degree to which plants would bring, let me just use a word I want to use, bring joy into my life. Because I was already deeply involved in spirituality from a pretty young age, like in late teens, I kind of delved in. I was super fortunate to have some wonderful, wonderful teachers who did profound spiritual healing work with. But there was still a piece missing. And I think that the spiritual work alone for me kept me kind of up in my head, up in my upper chakras. It didn't help me come into real embodiment and true day-to-day magic and joy in living. In fact, it was more like I would have those wonderful moments and bursts of highs from the spiritual work and profound love and heart opening from the spiritual work. But it wasn't until the nature and the plants came into my life that this became integrated, And so, wow, what an amazing, unexpected gift that that when you tune into nature with the help of plants and with the help of ritual and ceremony, as I'm thinking you probably asked me some questions about that too, but one of the most unexpected parts for me was how much this alleviates loneliness.
Because you're connected to something more profound and bigger, but I don't know, nature.
Exactly. Nature, and then even beyond nature, right? When we get into the ritual and ceremonial part, nature is the thing that makes me feel I have allies and friends and kin anywhere I am, everywhere I go, whether I know the name of this plant or I don't, it doesn't matter. And let me give you a physical example of this, okay? Because it's not just pretty concepts. This is really grounded stuff here. When we inhale, we are literally breathing in the oxygen that the plants and trees around us are exhaling.
Okay.
And when we exhale and release the carbon dioxide that our bodies, you perceive as metabolic waste, we can't use that, right? When we breathe out the carbon dioxide, we are literally giving breath to the plants and the trees.
All right.
So if we never knew another thing but that, anybody, anywhere can go sit with a tree they're drawn to. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's important because I was going to bring up the idea that working with plants actually starts to work on you emotionally and also if you feel like you're mentally not completely there or unbalanced, or your emotions are affecting your mental state, that the energetic balancing from the plants is actually working um, to heal that in some way, balance it off in some way. And I find that people who have been very, very ill sometimes just went into, I don't know, the woods or just in nature and did much better.
Oh
And
yes. Oh yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. And then we have official medicine in Japan of forest bathing. You
Oh,
know, this is a prescribed medicine now there. I don't want to butcher the name. I think it's Shunriki, but I may be wrong. I may have just butchered it, or I may have said it right. I'm not sure, but it's forest bathing is the direct translation. So you're absolutely right. And I mean, there are study after study after study showing that, children do better, have better attention spans, better health when they are interacting with nature. If they have a school garden, one of my dreams is to see a garden in every school.
right,
I'm really glad to see that there are people who are implementing that dream, who are putting that dream into practice,
right.
because we can't all do everything, right? We have to pick and choose among our dreams, which are the ones we have time, energy, talent, to pursue.
Uh-huh.
And I really encourage everyone to do that, to not think like, well, what needs to be done? It's more like, what do you love to do? What are your gifts? And then you'll find where to offer them.
Hmm.
Because there's an endless, you can do an endless list of what needs to be done, right? But you'll be best at doing what your heart wants to do, what you love to do. And
Seems like
in terms of, let
direction.
me just add one other thing, because I think it matters. In terms of profundity of plant power, plant empowering other people, or not even just plants, but the whole, ecosystem of nature. Because of the way kind of we are in our cultures today, many people think they have to take entheogens, mind-altering plants that are what we in the wise woman tradition would say are kind of like, they're like the surgery of plants. They break and enter and they, open our consciousness, whether we're talking ayahuasca or diame or what have you. And
Mhm.
I'm not dissing these at all, but what I'm saying is you can get that medicine from a dandelion. You can get that medicine from a common weed. Here, let me show you a
That's
beautiful.
funny because I wrote dandelion on one of my questions.
Really? Okay, so this is like an absolutely exquisite wild carrot flower that I picked from the garden this morning. And you see that telltale
Yeah.
red dot in the center. Um, this is actually the ancestor to our wild carrot. And look at the back. It's so
Oh,
beautiful. Here, I'll show you
it
close up too.
protects its beauty.
Right? So this is beauty medicine among all the other things it does for our bodies. But I want to just share with you one thing I'm doing with this plant right now, which is on most days I have made a tincture,
Mhm.
right? This is doesn't yeah. So tincture where you extract the herb into alcohol.
Right.
And I have a little bottle of wild carrot flower tincture
Mhm.
sitting on my kitchen windowsill, because I find if I really want to take my herbs regularly, I have to see them to remember to take care of me.
Right.
Uh, that's another tip, people. Just leave them out. Don't be so neat.
Uh-huh.
And I take a few drops every day because carrot has a spirit medicine of helping us to return to or retain the quality of playfulness.
Oh, okay.
And right now, man, we need that, because things are very serious, things are very dire.
Yeah.
And so I find if I keep myself nourished with some playfulness in my being, like, what children have naturally, unless they're in really dire circumstance,
Right.
um, it helps me in my creativity of how to choose, you know, how to help, how to be there, and how to keep my heart open even when it breaks, at things that I see or read or hear or um,
Oh, that's good
so a
to.
little playfulness is a great thing. And just to say this, because someone will always chime in and they'll no doubt do this and say, you didn't talk about how to identify carrot from other wild plants. So first thing is, I'm not telling you to go pick anything you don't know. Second thing is, I did a very clear post just this week on Instagram and on Facebook, giving the best tips of how to tell wild carrot, also called Queen Anne's lace, botanical Daucus carota, how to tell this plant from poison hemlock, which is indeed a poisonous plant that this superficially resembles.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm very active on
Very good tip.
IG.
Very good tip.
Yeah, it's an important tip. So, but again, you don't pick what you don't know. But there's many fine herbalists making and selling products. You can buy things, but of course, I encourage everyone to learn. To go out and learn. And in answer to any potential question about this, no, I don't sell herbs.
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the idea of ritual, and is that more of a way of unifying the plant with us? I mean, just to talk about the idea of ritual.
Yeah.
How that makes the impact of working with plants. I don't know, is it more powerful? Is it being used as a manifesting tool, as a healing tool, both or different? It depends.
All of the above, right? All of the above. So it depends what your ritual is about, right? So we have, I sort of joke, I do love words. I love silence and I love words. But when I'm loving words, I like to think about their origins, or even if we were to say them a little differently, what they might be saying. So kind of my entree into ritual is, ritual helps you feel rich, y'all. Rich, you all. Ritual is something that when I was first introduced to it, I sort of didn't really relate. I thought, why would I do this? This is, I don't know. I didn't understand anything about what the power of meaningful ritual really is. Right. And what I came to understand is that learning to work in ritual is also learning to become a co-creator of life. Okay. Ritual, the way that I practice it, and the way that I learned, and the way that it's grown organically, is a way of kind of attuning yourself to the powers that be, right? Mm-hmm. But whatever names you might want to give them. Mm-hmm. But attuning yourself to the powers that be and using your own natural resources in cahoots with the natural resources, intelligences, power around us, in order to bring things into being, or in order to release things that are, false or holding you back.
You mean like negative things that are going on with you that are not part of your natural balance or something like that? Then
yeah, maybe habits, negative self-talk, limiting, really, let me say it this way, limiting stories that you believe are truth.
Okay.
Right? Because it's incredible when you start to look at things, but that's just the way it is. That's the truth. To then, like, if you hear other people and they have a different perspective, like imagine that we are all, everyone who's with us here, invisible like yourself. I just kind of love that you're invisible, because in ceremony and ritual, we're talking about how to interact with the invisible realms. So it's almost like the universe went like,
it's on purpose.
Let's set this up for them. But imagine that all of you who are listening, and me and Araceli, that each of us, that we have a circle, or we're like a wheel, like a bicycle wheel, say. Each one of us is a spoke on that wheel. And each spoke is essential to keep that wheel turning in a good balanced way, right? Right. To keep it turning. And so if I firmly believe that, let's just make something up, everyone's out to get you. Right. Everyone, given a chance, everyone will take advantage of you. Mm-hmm. And I was brought up in a way where that's just the truth. I don't understand that that's a belief. I believe that's the truth. And then I'm listening to the other spokespeople. That's very funny. I've been using this analogy for years and years. I've never said that before. I kind of like that. Spokespeople, because we're spokes. Oh my, that was a fun thing for me. All right, I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. So if you hear these other spokespeople say, oh, geez, that's not my experience at all. You know, my belief is that, you know, by asking for help, I always find someone steps up to help me generously. They don't ask me for anything. So suddenly your mind is blown, right? But so so that's one aspect, right? That's one aspect. But ritual, so in answer to your question of you know, what might be something that you wanted to release through ritual, right?
Okay.
A belief that holds you back, that keeps you from connecting, that you know, another thing about nature is working with nature, the plants, ritual, the intelligences of air, fire, water, and earth.
The element.
um,
Yes.
yeah, these elements are more than elements. They're ancient intelligences. And
Mhm.
one of the things that that is very helpful is when you see that there are certain ways of working
Mhm.
that are cross-cultural. You
Oh,
see them all over planet Earth where people are living uh, with their indigenuity in place, right? With their connection to Earth in place. And the, I call it the medicine wheel of magic. And that's part of what I will be, you know, working with anyone who comes to the, you know, the course to
right.
explore this with me, right? The medicine wheel of magic, but whatever we call it, all over this planet, people who are living in a connected way, right? In a way of receptivity
Mhm.
with themselves as part of nature, working with plants,
Right.
animals. To me, that also means that this is when people are living this way, they're living in gratitude.
Oh,
They're
very.
living in gratitude for the reciprocity for what they're receiving. They're in gratitude for that breath the plant is giving them. They're in gratitude for that food, for that egg that hen is laying for them, you know, and so forth. So all over this planet, people work with the air, the fire, the water, the earth. And to me, that's a mirror of something that is a truth worth exploring. When I see it everywhere,
Huh?
then I pay extra attention. And
Mhm.
so that's something I've noticed. And then, you know, you make it your own. You incorporate in your own way. But a medicine wheel is a, you know, it is that's a native term,
Right.
right? An indigenous term.
Is that what
And
you also mean by 7 directions?
well, the seven directions. Okay. Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question, Araceli.
Uh,
So we have the circle, right, of the four,
mhm.
right? But where it becomes the seven
Mhm.
is rather than the circle just going round and round and round and round, and you know, you just want to get off after a while, right? It gets boring. The circle becomes a spiral when it moves through time.
Oh,
Okay. And so where the seven comes in is we have the air, the fire, the water, the earth. And
mhm.
then we have below, above, and the center.
Wow.
Okay. So, right, because I don't want to just move around a circle, right? I want to spiral and expand, right? And so this is what, for me, that's what ritual has brought into my life. And it's, you know, I'll put in the adjective meaningful ritual, right? Because a lot of people have the experience that ritual is this thing of obligation and rote. The rite is by rote. It doesn't mean anything,
Ah,
right? Like, you know, they may say grace for their food, but don't feel like, wow, you know, bees pollinated the flowers that made this, you know, almond or, you know, whatever it is,
huh?
right? we
Yeah.
don't we don't trace it back, right? Because we've gone to the supermarket and got, you know, the almond in a plastic bag,
Yes.
right? It's a tree.
It
It
becomes
has
a pain.
beautiful flowers. These flowers bear children, and
Uh,
those children become the almonds that we love to eat, or the chocolate that we love to eat, or the peaches, or the what have you. So ritual is also simply a way of tuning in and expressing, like, let's say if it's a ritual for summer solstice or
uh-huh.
autumn equinox, right? These are kind of the rituals that I would love to see, you know, growing back again all over the planet, because these are the things that unite us, that nobody, doesn't matter what religion you practice, what God you believe in, or goddess you believe in, those are phenomena of nature, right? The longest day, the shortest night, right?
Mhm.
And so when we participate in ritual, we feel part of this magic of the mystery of life itself.
Well, it's almost like that, yeah, that true understanding about how multidimensional the plant, or I guess all of the things that belong to Earth are, that most of the time we are just not conscious of anymore, which is why we value your work, Robin.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to ask you is also, you talk about using symbol and metaphor to communicate the unsayable. What
Mm.
would be constitute the unsayable, for example?
Well,
When
how can I say?
ritual, I mean, are we talking about a deep type of thing that's going on that has to do with, let's say it's a horrible disease or something like cancer, or an emotional trauma, and it's something that you want to address, but it now it's being addressed in a silent language. And
Well, or a symbolic language. Yeah, that's beautiful.
mhm,
That's beautiful. Yes. So symbols shape our understanding of things. And also the unsayable, we could say, is, what we've given names to, like chi or prana.
ah,
Um, right. So it works both ways. Kind of, I like what you added in, right? The unspeakable horror of something that, like, tears you up inside, right? Whether it's
right,
like yesterday, I lost a beloved friend to
right,
this scourge we call cancer.
mhm,
I also remember a story and saw an image of a man in a village in Africa who made this bigger than life size, mud sculpture of this goddess looking woman. And he said, "This is cancer, right?"
uh-huh,
Right. So he had a completely different image. He said, "This is who I'm going to talk to for my healing of this disease in my body." That's how he imaged, right? That's how he symbolized cancer, was this extraordinary goddess who
wow,
he could interact with and ask for her help in healing his body. So yeah, so there's many realities out there, and in here there's many realities, and we want to I want to help people to expand their possibilities and expand their sense of what they're connected to. One of my and this is where, again, why we need to be in the body, because if we're only in a spirituality that's transcendent of life,
correct,
then we never fully embrace life,
right,
and nor do we give ourselves over to it, as we see people doing now around the world. So I want to be careful to say, not say, "Oh, nobody's connected, nobody's conscious," because there's such awakening
yes,
happening now. We have brought ourselves to such a degree of crisis
mhm,
that um, people are waking up, people are speaking up, people are involved in a way they never have been before, right? Between COVID, between Black Lives Matter, between taking care of the planet,
right,
right? So ultimately the planet will take care of herself. I don't mean we're not, we don't want to do everything we can to help, but it's us we need to be worried about, and our fellow earth inhabitants, more than the earth, because if it comes down to it, she'll heal herself by getting rid of us, and we don't really want that. We want to be here for the healing, we want to be here for the beauty that we all know is possible, but it won't happen if we don't stand up for it. It won't happen if we don't speak up and do all of our civic duty, right? Okay, I'm not going to get up on a soapbox and say, "But please vote." um, but if we don't have the spiritual nourishment to
mhm,
feel empowered enough to stand up for something beyond our very immediate sphere of taking care of our kids or our aging parents or whatever it might be, right? So that's the other piece of this, is we need this. We need nature connection, and we need, again, we're always nature connected. We can't not be. We need to be conscious
right,
of our connection, and we need to be tuned into how empowered we can be by working with the resources of nature, right? And of the invisible realms that
yes,
you are currently
right,
um, in order to have the juice, right? To commit ourselves to sharing beyond, again, our absolutely immediate sphere, right? And in a way, the crises that we're in right now, the crises that we're in right now, have kind of taken people out of their immediate sphere because they have time.
They have time.
They
Exactly.
have time.
Well,
And so it's that's another unsayable, right? The mystery of how the things that can look the worst of the worst can
right.
also open up, right, new opportunity,
No,
new blossoms, and then, listen, I beyond, there's not even words to say how deeply I wish it wasn't necessary that George Floyd was killed and all these other people were killed, or that the rivers are being polluted and stuff, for us to awaken. But here we are. And so the question is not why or who's to blame. That's like the biggest
well,
endless, like, limiting thing that we get caught in. The question is, what now? What now?
well,
What
I like what you said about the fact that, and I find this a lot, that sometimes people say a lot about spirituality as a way to put down being in physical form and the appreciation of physical form and the material earth. And I think that nature has the best expression of physical reality. And so I do like how you said that. How do you know? I mean, you yourself, I think, from what I read, were basically, I think you were led into this just by, I don't know, walking upon a forest. I'm not exactly sure that you just,
well, let's see, again, tragedy to opportunity. A million years ago, my mother had cancer,
Mhm.
and she and my father took a course together about how to tap into more of their spiritual ability. My parents were not in any way religious or spiritual, like, at all. So
Mhm.
how did that happen? I don't even know. I think she heard some radio host she liked to listen to talk about this course. It's still around. It's Silva Mind Control.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, but she said to my dad, and I actually tell this story in Healing Magic, she said, maybe it will help me in my healing. Maybe, and he would do anything that she wanted to do. So they were in love till the end of their days.
Wow.
And then, which was so wonderful to see. But anyway, they went to this course, and we had all, aged with my mother through this illness. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible experience, my
Mhm.
dad in particular. And when they came home and I saw them,
Yeah.
I said to myself, wherever they've been, I'm going,
Oh.
because he looked like a decade had dropped off his body. She was, kind of aglow with life again, and not like that kind of defeated, like, oh, I've had, a breast removed, my life is over. They looked amazing. So I was like, whatever they did, I'm going to do that. I want to know what they got tuned into. And for me, those two teachers became my spiritual teachers when they left that program, because a big part of the focus of that is on, like, how to get what you want.
Mhm.
And I'm a person who wanted to go deeper than that. Those teachers are people who wanted to go deeper than that, because the reality is, when you get what you want something else.
Mhm.
You want the next thing and the next thing, because that's not what makes us as humans feel fantastic, right? That's not what makes us get up in the morning and say, thank you for another day.
Yes.
I have a new phone. No, it doesn't. It just doesn't.
Mm.
And we're still learning that one, right? We're still learning that one. It's so easy to get fooled. And so a lot of this too is about developing clarity, right? To not be so easily fooled and bamboozled by, by the powers that be, by the whole commercial mindset, right? But to gain the spiritual muscle tone, in a sense, to have clarity about what really, is going on and what really matters.
Mhm.
I've had people say to me things like, well, you're optimistic. It must mean that you're not informed. And I'm like, no, it does not mean I'm not informed. I had a partner who once said, you have attention surplus disorder. I'm informed. I pay attention,
Uh-huh.
right? But it's, if your heart is aligned, if you are feeling, again, your connection
Mhm.
with the powers that be,
Mhm.
however you want to name them,
Right.
it gives meaning. it gives meaning to everything else, to the challenges. So I'm trying to remember now, what were we talking about? Why I started to tell you this story? Oh, how I came to my work. So so when I took this 4-day class myself, it also helped me heal a broken bone
Oh,
that I had, which was not going to allow me to be in a play my mother had written.
all
This
right.
part isn't in the book. This is another part of the story, and I really wanted to be in that play.
Okay.
And my mother taught me, you know, what she had learned. Oh, actually, that was before I took it. She taught me what she had learned about how to visualize the bone knitting, and they took off my cast halfway through when they said they would be able to.
So
So
intention is a very
that kind of
important
got
piece.
me hooked physically as well, you know, into, oh, this is real. There's something real going on here. It's not just beautiful, heart opening, you know, words and poetry and so on.
Intangibles, yeah.
The
Because
tangible, that's where what I wanted to bring in, because you keep saying this wonderful thing about, you know, nature and being, I'm sorry, the word you used is escaping me at this moment, but you know, the power of nature, the reality, the truth, we have that in our bodies. We have that in our bodies.
mhm,
Just like what's going on with the tree, our bodies are always sloughing off old cells and growing new ones, and all this, you know, kind of thing. So years down the road, I went and did some work with a wonderful pioneer in multiple fields, whose name was Emily Conrad Duwad, and her work Continuum is now all over the planet. And one of the things she said, which became a very important kind of inner guidance reminder for me, was to pay attention to knowing where you are
mhm.
and to what and whom you are connected.
Ah,
And that summarizes everything in a sense, you know, minus all the juicy details, but that summarizes in a sense what this course is about. Is where are you, like where are you in space, where you have to be embodied to know really where you are. um,
mhm.
when people constantly get poison ivy rash, I call it
Yeah.
potent ivy rash. I know, and I share with them if they ask, you know, for help, that they need to become more mindful about being in their body,
Oh,
right?
uh-huh.
Right. So you got to know what's around you. And that also helps you stay safe, you know, in
Good
different
point.
situations.
Because there is danger involved. When I talked about subtlety, that also means that there is the beauty and the power of the healing, but also there's also if you don't respect it or you don't know what you're doing, it can be a dangerous thing for people who just kind of jump in there and think. So it takes time, and I find that
Ah,
you are a person who took that time and subtlety in order to address how to work with this practice. This.
absolutely. It takes, you know, it's just like it takes time to mature from a 4-year-old to a 34-year-old.
Mhm.
It takes time to ripen in your practice. It takes time to mature. It takes time to deepen your spiritual, you know, guidance system, right? So maybe you start just listening to your teacher and doing what your teacher says, but over time, you know, you develop your own direct and intimate relationship, which is why it's so empowering, right? You don't have to go through the intermediary,
Mhm.
right, to talk to the divine. You can connect directly, right, through your senses, through your body. And then the plants come in and they help us. So, for example, here's a plant that, of all my plant videos on my YouTube channel, this one has tens of thousands of more views, right? And it's on the magical plant called Artemisia vulgaris, commonly called mugwort.
Mhm.
Um, and so here's a bottle I made. You can tell by the fancy label that it's a homemade medicine. See, there's my Robin and Rose.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, this is magical Artemisia. So
Mhm.
that's a plant, for example, that has much physical medicine to it, and also has these spiritual qualities that can help us to open our what's called our third eye, but that I call our first eye, the eye that sees beauty, the eye that sees truth, the eye that can discern the patterns within the chaos, right? Because chaos is necessary for transformation, but there's pattern in it as well, or maybe not in the, all right, I'm trying to say something that I don't know how I want to say it. So I'll just say chaos is necessary for transformation. And we've got chaos in spades right now, right? So Artemisia is a plant that I use to help me dream, a plant that I use to help me kind of come out from under my own internalizing of societal or familial restraints, right? In other words, to be freer.
Okay.
Freer and to incorporate the wisdom of the wild into how I go about my activism, how I go about my art, how I go about my life, right? Because it's all connected. There's coherence, but that takes time, as opposed to one of the most common misconceptions about natural medicine with herbal medicine, especially when we're using herbs. What I'm about to say is especially true when we're using herbs in a more natural state, as opposed to when they've been processed and turned into a product, right? So here's a beautiful little leaflet of a rose family plant. Here, I'll hold it nice and close. Named Agrimony, Agramonia. So one of the common misconceptions is that plants always take a long time to heal. I have seen in all the years I've been helping people physically with herbal medicine that is absolutely not true.
Oh, okay.
Herbs can sometimes work faster than anything available pharmaceutically, right? And I'm not saying we should only have herbs and not have pharmacy, not have surgery, not have blah, 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 right? It's all got a place. It's all a spoke on the wheel.
Exactly.
But we rush to the more invasive things way sooner than we need to, right? There's lots of things you can do before you get to the drugs that have side effects, the surgery that is invasive, and so on and so forth, right? So agrimony is a beautiful kind of sweet smelling plant that is very helpful when kind of what we call, I don't call it that, but what is commonly called negative energy is directed your way. This is a very helpful plant, and people notice it right away if they maybe make a little spray bottle of it and they use it at work because they have a jealous coworker, or or there's federal agents coming down towards you and you need to be safe.
Okay.
Right? This is a plant.
A protector of yours. Is
It's
that
a
what
protector.
you sometimes call plants? You call them magical plants. That there are certain magical plants. What do you mean by magical?
Oh, all plants are magical. It's the intention with which we're using them. So, for example, I might be using this agrimony to walk into a situation where I know people don't have my best interest at heart, and where that's not going to be a problem for me. But I could also be using this plant because I have a little canker sore in my mouth and I want it to go away. Right. So it's a medicinal. I can't put those words. It's a medicinal. Thank you. A medicinal plant. It's a magical plant. It's a spiritual. It's interesting. Okay. So lots of things.
Plant does pertain to a spiritual part of our body in some way.
I'm sorry, say that again because I'm not sure what you said.
About agrimony was good for opening the third eye, so that would be that point.
No, that was Artemisia.
Sorry about that. There we go.
And I didn't say she's good for that. I said that's one of the generous gifts that she will share with us, because plants are elders. They're healers. I don't speak about them like they exist for me, right? They will help me to achieve things I want to achieve or to heal things I want to heal. And if I approach them in a respectful way, in an honoring and grateful way, then they do more for me than I even asked for. Right. But again, don't look to just replace plants with pharmaceuticals with plants in terms of healing, because it's a different mindset that we're doing, because again, they're going to work in relationship with us rather than do it to us, right? Like if I take an herb to stop a wound that's bleeding, right? It's not going to just stop the bleeding. It's going to work with my body's natural ability to coagulate, but it's going to help it. because my body is having trouble doing it on its own because it just got, a wound, right? I stepped on a piece of glass or whatever, right? So it does it with us, which is an important distinction. And in the same way, I'm not saying like, let's just take our kind of the rituals that have gotten tired and don't fulfill us, that maybe we still do because of family obligations or because we don't know what else to put in its place, and that's our community. We're
Right.
not just replacing one um, way of power being out there for another.
Okay.
This form of doing ritual is about reciprocity. It's about everybody's got power.
Hmm.
Want to do, how do we want to open our hearts and use our power or our gifts together to help create the world we all know is possible? That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. People who get hung up on, they're like, oh, I'm a magical person doing this and that magic. It's like, that's great. That's a stage. That's fine. And it can be fun. But magic and tuning into the magic of real ritual, for example, and ceremony, and how herbs can help us with that, is really about how do we take this out into life, into our lives, into our relationships, into our world, into our neighborhoods and country and world and so on. And if you're slowing down and you're touching a plant, and not just, people say, oh, I'm going to grab some of that for my, let's
Uh-huh.
say, salad. Now I'm always like, no, no, don't grab it. Would you just grab that person? So I like to tease, although as in much humor, there's truth in it. I say, when you learn to work with your hands with the plants better, I love to say this, especially to men, you become a better lover. And then they're like, oh, let me slow down and learn how to touch plants. So, but in all seriousness, it is about respect.
Mm.
It's about relationship. And so even how the plants can help you respect your body's ability to heal
Hmm.
is pretty remarkable. Like, it gives you a different mindset because, again, we're kind of brainwashed, right? Like that we can't do anything without expert help.
Right. Oh, very good. Very good. Because I like what you pointed out, gratitude, respect, and relationship. Those are three words that you seem to come into an understanding that the plant world, I guess, has communicated this to you, because that's
Mm.
part of our forgotten language, I think. Right.
Yeah, and it helps us be, we're horribly rude to each other
Hmm.
these days. Like, you can't, it's very difficult to have a conversation that's kind if you're in disagreement. And so this is a way that kind of gets us more centered too, so that maybe we can hopefully get better at that, at conversing, with one another when we're on opposite sides of the fence, in some important ways.
How many,
And it's not just me. I just want to emphasize that all these things that we're talking about, I've seen this with thousands of students over the years, or with
well,
apprentices.
that's what I wanted to ask you too. I mean, a story or two about some of the changes that you've seen that you thought, well, this is miraculous, this is fast, this is amazing. Uh,
Mm. Sure. I mean, an example might be a case where, well, this is a little bit more spell than ritual. I was thinking of, um, well, no, in a way it was both. A woman who did a ritual asking for the help of the qualities of the air, the fire, the water, the earth. And I'll just be really, really brief and say, for example, maybe clarity of mind, passionate commitment,
mhm.
willingness to explore the options, and wanting it to come into being in her life. Who had a husband who was absolutely determined to keep their children when they separated, and he didn't actually want them. He just wanted to punish her
Yeah.
for claiming her life. And it had been going on, and there was absolutely no sign of anything changing. And she did ritual, and she asked some friends, right? So again, we don't have to be experts. She asked some friends to help her and be part of it with her.
Mhm.
And there was a miraculous turnaround, and
Wow.
she got her children back.
My, that's
Uh,
impressive.
I mean, I hear stories of healing on all levels like this, from the physical to the social to the spiritual, all the time. And I'm never, ever jaded about it. It's still, I think that's another part of living in connection with the community that is more than human, is it keeps you filled with wonder. I don't know other ways to say it. It
It's
just, or maybe
miraculous.
I don't need another way. It
Part
keeps you filled
of
with wonder.
nature. Yeah, it's a miracle actually. And
Yeah, and miracles happen all the time, but we also work towards them. We work towards them. We engage to help those miracles come into being. And it's almost like nature and spirit are sort of standing by around all of us going, what can I help you with? What can I help you with? If only we remember that we have these allies everywhere who are waiting to help us. They just want to be asked and they want to be guided. They want to be directed. What are you looking for help with? Right. And it doesn't, I'm not saying that, every single thing you ask for, you get, or every single person heals physically. It
Mhm.
does not work that way. And that is also part taken all the way back around to when you asked me, what do you mean by the unsayable?
Uh-huh.
That is part of the mystery. And
That's
in my way of being in life, in the world, and working in this tradition, which I'm not limited by, I could say other names of other traditions too, that are part of how I do my work. Gail Faith Edwards' Wild Heart tradition, or this one's the Vitalist tradition. But Wise Woman is a good umbrella term.
Mhm.
I kind of like the Wise Wild Heart tradition these days, because I don't want anyone to feel left out. But
Okay.
what was I saying? I was saying something. Or can you help me? Where was I? I
I
got sidetracked about tradition.
Well, I wanted to actually tradition and we were just talking about the changes that have happened with students that you've
Oh, the miracle, right? The miracle stories, right? So yes, about being filled with wonder. And again, I see this all around me. I see it in my students. I see it in the letters they send me. They're like, I thought I was getting herbs for my recurrent ear infections. I didn't realize that my worldview was going to open wide.
wow.
And oh yes, I know exactly though. It was about the incredible profundity of that we don't have the final word. The
Okay.
universe has the final word,
Right.
right? You can want to heal
Hmm.
physically. You can want to survive that disease. That's not always what happens, and it's not about doing it right, or eating the right thing or this or that. There is a profound level of what is beyond our
Comprehend.
ability to control
Yes.
and even to fully appreciate the perfection of. Very difficult, the harder the situation. And I will say that one of the things that very early on, and then I think I know we're running a
Yes.
little long. Shall I tell this one story or shall I skip this
Go
and
ahead
save it for
because I think
class?
we still have
Okay. Okay. So one of the things that really, I was already studying with my teachers, and I was, kind of a little bit I just had that. I think I was born with that sense of there's more to life than meets the eye. And I don't know what to do with this sense I have that I'm connected to everything, but I kind of have a sense of this.
hmm
And then one of the things that kind of, and then in my studies, I had kind of come to this notion
hmm
that it was all about love. It was all about love. And that was great. That felt really good. Okay, it's all about love and about spreading love and becoming more loving and blah, 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 blah. And then what happened was a woman that I knew, the girlfriend of my boyfriend's roommate,
hmm
uh, was hitchhiking to see him, and she was kidnapped, and she was raped, and she was killed.
Oh God.
So I'm going to tell this as a really short version of what went on after that. Okay. It was quite a while before it was discovered what actually happened. But when it was that, as you can imagine, here I am, I'm like 19 years old, and I am my whole like thing about spirituality and the meaning of life being love is completely knocked flat.
Hmm.
It's just shattered.
Right.
And I had a remarkable experience after a long time of asking, well, maybe it wasn't that long really, but of asking, deeply desiring to understand how life could still be about love and this could have happened. I just didn't like, it doesn't make sense. Well,
Right.
how could this be? And without, again, the short version was that I got a message that it was about love. It still was held in love. It was contained in love. But the level of understanding I was asking for was impossible. I couldn't hold the understanding I was asking for and like stay alive in a body.
Right.
So it was also the first time I ever felt divinity specifically come to me in a female form. It was just an interesting little side note. And I heard, it was two of them, and I heard them say, so this is the deal. It is, love is actually at the essence, the center of it all. And you can't understand how this happened and that is true, but they are both true. Your choice, darling. You can either accept what we're saying as truth, as a true message that we are giving you, or not. It's up to you.
Reminds me of the unsayable you were talking about.
That is exactly why I told this story.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, I chose to accept that message as the profound gift that it was, and to accept, and this has stood me in good stead all these years since, that
Yeah,
there are some things I am not going to understand with my intellect.
that's right.
I'm going to learn to feel whether they're true for me or not by being in my body and being in my whole self, and with the help of nature and spirit. I'm
Well,
going to look to live a life of love.
well, thank you, Robin Rose Bennett. That was a fantastic view that I have gotten, and I think you have given our audience about
Mm,
your world and how we relate to ourselves, to nature, and so
mm,
on. And if you want to see Robin coming up, and she will have an ongoing course called Herbs, Ritual, and Sacred Ceremony. It's a weekly course with 3 sessions, and it starts on Thursday, July 30th. And it's from 8 to 10 each evening, and it ends on August 13th. So give us a call or register online at www.opencenter.org, or give us a call at 212-219-2527, extension 0. And definitely love. Robin has so many courses that you teach at the Open Center. It's fantastic. So thank you.
Hopefully we'll be setting more. And I just want to thank you for the depth of your questions.
Mhm.
And your listening. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. And of course, I know what you look like, so I can picture you as I'm talking to you, but I still think Spirit just had a little fun with us by making you the invisible woman today.
Well, thank you so much. And all right, see you next time, everyone.